Hello, everyone. Welcome to Women Talk Construction, the show where we shine the light on awesome women building our world and men, one project at a time. I'm Angela, your host, and I'm here with my wonderful co host, Christy. How are you today, Christy?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm really excited about today. We're about to get into some
Oh,
real
yeah.
talk about sustainable building, and I'm ready to soak up all the wisdom that we're going to learn today from our guest, who's going to be giving us some really great insights on what that looks like.
Oh, yeah. I am loving it. Our conversation before we get on, because we always talk to our guest, and she is a true trailblazer and in the residential sector, which is extremely difficult for females, but also just what she's doing is difficult as well.
Hmm.
And we commend her. So let's dive in. Today, we have got Amanda Albert with us. She is a rock star behind Inhabit Sustainable Design Build. Amanda has spent 14 years cutting her teeth with Habitat for Humanity, which not many, I mean, that's a huge organization to be a part
Yeah.
of, and it's wonderful. And now she's out there pushing the envelope with natural building and sustainable design. And she is located in Greensboro, North Carolina. So,
Woohoo!
welcome to the show, Amanda.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for asking me.
Yeah, share a little bit with our audience about yourself.
So, I'm a residential designer and builder. I have just a small company in Greensboro, North Carolina, where we focus on working with our clients to find good, healthy, environmentally safe, non-toxic solutions that fit their lifestyle. A lot of my projects are smaller. I have done a lot of ADUs or accessory dwelling units, which is like backyard apartments kind of thing,
Nice.
and have designed, several full house construction as well. So yeah, it's been challenging and fun and just relationship building and all the good things.
For sure.
Awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's start at the beginning. Not everybody knows your background, and we've been privy to it for the last several months, and we're excited about just talking a little bit about who you are and what you do and why. You were with Habitat for Humanity for 14 years. What made you flip the switch and switch to sustainable building and really go all in? And how did that spark turn into the journey that you're on right now?
My background, my degree is actually in wildlife management and ecology. And so I was coming from a place of interest in the natural world and how it works and preserving and sustaining that environment. But I was also really always interested in building and architecture and things like that. I went that route in school because what I knew of architecture was it was an inside job and I didn't want to be inside. And so I went that route first. And then afterwards, when I was working, I didn't like where I was living and didn't really like my job. And so I was just looking for a way, something different. And I found out about AmeriCorps, which is the National Service Organization, and that you could partner with Habitat for Humanity. So that's what brought me to Habitat. And I can just say that working with a nonprofit like Habitat that does construction is a great way for people who are interested in construction to have like an inviting space to try it out. But so with that background, with Habitat, I was learning how to build. I was learning how to teach others how to build. I was learning how to work with subcontractors and manage projects. But there was always that sort of background of ecology and interest in the environment and us and how we interact with that. And so our particular Habitat affiliate was building Energy Star houses at the time and trying for some other certifications like that included things like indoor air quality and things like that would help make the house a little bit safer and more friendly for the homeowners to live in. And so it sort of opened my mind to start to question, oh, there's this outside world, nature, and I kind of know about that, but how does our building environment play with that? It started to introduce the questions of, well, where does this material come from? What's it made of? How did it get here? How's it going to affect us as the workers? How's it going to affect the client or the homeowner once they're living with this material? And so those things started coming in. I started learning more about, I think I was introduced by somebody through Habitat to natural building. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. You can use the materials that we just have, without like altering them a whole lot to build houses. And so I started sort of seeking out that knowledge.
Nice.
And I along the way, I just met folks who just knew a lot about natural building. They knew a lot about building. They knew a lot about building science, and sort of marrying all those three things together.
So it was really easy for you to jump on board. You had people that were surrounding you that were familiar with what your interests were, which I think is so important as we get out in the world and find out what, powers us is, surrounding yourself by people who have like minds.
Exactly. Yeah. And using those guys as mentors, and just like learning as much as you can from them, sort of passing their knowledge on to the other people around you.
Yes.
Yeah. Pass it on to the next generation, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're here to do.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
I love all that you've done with the Habitat, because and you're exactly right. That's where somebody wants to like get a taste of it, go there and just volunteer. They can even just have you volunteer as a helper. So let's talk a little bit more about the sustainable building, because it sounds so awesome. But it can feel, very big and fancy concept to some folks, that maybe it's too expensive, or how do I do this? Or even my thoughts were, because, I spent a lot of time in my family business, Don Gardner Architects, where we drew the stock house plans. Well, how do you accommodate for a lot of these in these stock house plans? Because a lot of times, a lot of people that's what they're buying, or maybe, and you can share more about that, but can you break down for us what makes a house truly sustainable, and why should regular homeowners and builders care about it? And how do they go about doing it, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of different facets of what makes a house sustainable, and it can be some simple things. It can start in the design process, where it's just, maybe how you orient the house in terms of north, south, east, and west, and windows, and thinking about how it interacts with the land, so that you're not using as much electricity to heat or cool your house. So it can be a simple thing like that. And then it can move into maybe just inside, simply, choosing paint that isn't a plastic paint, or choosing even just your furniture that doesn't have flame retardants in it. But from those two extremes, there's lots of stuff in the middle. There is, different kinds of wall systems that you can look at to increase your insulation value in the house. There's using good windows, learning about the materials that you use, and reducing things like vinyl. A lot of windows that are affordable and easily accessible are made from PVC, which is a really toxic material and high embodied carbon. And so, there's alternatives to that are that can be just as affordable. And so, really a lot of times it's having to go through and prioritize when you're sitting down with a client. What are they really looking for? Are they looking for their larger impact on the world, or are they looking for their what the house is like inside once they're done, or is it all of those things? And why you should care is just because this affects you,
everybody,
and it affects everybody. I have learning a couple of years ago about paint, to go back to paint, that paint was basically plastic. And, every time you wash your paintbrush off in the sink, and all that plastic goes into the water and into our water system, and that most municipalities don't filter for plastic. And then all these studies are coming out that all of us have plastic in our blood now. They're finding it in our brains. All of our babies have plastic in it, and that's not good. So
no.
And it's just becoming aware of those things. I think a lot of folks just don't know. It's a comfortable house. I just want a comfortable house, but we have to become aware of the impacts that some of that ease and comfort.
You make it sound doable, which is the
Yeah.
first step from overwhelm, right? When you start
Right.
talking about sustainability, even though we work in this world, all three of us, not everybody is privy to the information that we know, right? And so when they think of sustainable, it seems a little more overwhelming than what you and I would think of sustainable, because we've been around it for a while. We kind of understand it. We're trying to figure out how to do it economically. But at the same time, from the outside world, it is overwhelming, but it's not. It really isn't. And that's what I want
Mm-mm.
the listeners to
It's
get from
not.
this today. It is not overwhelming. It may be to you, but if you reach out to somebody like Amanda, there's a lot of Amandas out there, but
There
Amanda,
are. Yeah.
Yeah.
she's going to help you figure out what to do where it's not going to bring the price tag up too high. Anyway, right now I got to talk about the strawberry, or I'm sorry, not the strawberry. That would be cool though. If we could build
Strawberries
houses
are
with
in season.
strawberries. I've been eating strawberries this morning. It's in my brain. We're going to talk about the first straw bale house. And that's so interesting. And it's wild in the best way, because we have plenty of that, right, in our country, and it's not plastic and it's not toxic. So what's got you most excited about that straw bale house project? And what's it been like convincing people that a straw bale house isn't just something from the Three Little Pigs?
Yeah. So this is the first permitted straw bale house in Greensboro, North Carolina, and there's plenty of places around the country that have been building straw bale for a while. It is actually in the national code, the National Residential Code. Straw bale building was added in 2015. Unfortunately, North Carolina actually went to the trouble to remove it from their state code, so it's not in the state code for North Carolina. So when I presented it to the building department, they were just sort of like, we're not even going to look at it unless you have an engineer letter to back it up. So I found an engineer who was willing to stamp it and review it and stuff. And then at that point, it was fine. And because it is such a different process than conventional building, I had to have meetings with the inspectors and stuff beforehand to say, okay, we need to shift our inspections around a little bit because the process is a little different. And honestly, just about every inspector that has come in has been really interested in the project. They walk in and they're like, well, this is different. I'm excited to see it at the end, The electrical was a little different because it was a totally new, you're running electrical lines through what looks like a very flammable material. So, their warning bells are going off, but there's safe ways to do it. And the community is really excited about it. We've had several sort of volunteer days to help out with the projects, either stacking the straw bales, or we're doing an earthen floor as well in there. And so we had friends and neighbors come and help us pour the earthen floor. And so the homeowners are just besides themselves. They just, every day they go out and they're just in love with whatever change they see.
What's happening.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's really cool. And I'd love for you to just really hone in on the difference between you building and a standard builder that's out there building 100 homes a year. Like, you get the community involved. You want the community involved. You probably, it's innate in women. I feel like we just that's what we want to do, right? We're community, we're gatherers, we're nurturers. But just tell us a little bit about what you think the difference is. Like, what happens at the end of the build in the entire community that happens with the way you build versus the way somebody would build who were not getting the community involved in the build?
I think it's the structure itself becomes more approachable in a way that, like, you've interacted with it, or other people have interacted with it, or oh, this person down here, my neighbor, was able to come over and help, and their hands helped build this wall.
Yeah.
And it's just a personal interaction there, a personal connection to the structure that you may not have if you just walk into a finished house and you don't know who any of the people were that helped out,
Yeah.
And I also love to work with the homeowners too, and say, first of all, this is a way that you could save some money if you want to come out and help do some of these things,
Yeah.
A lot of times
Oh,
we
I
might
love
use,
that.
yeah, we might use reclaimed wood or something that needs, nails pulled, or even, easy things where I'm like, okay, we're using right now
I
some old,
love reclaimed wood.
yeah, we're using some reclaimed mint green tiles that I pulled out of a house from the 60s, like years ago,
I
and I've
love
held on
it.
to. And she was excited for it. So, she's
Exciting.
scraping all the old paper and stuff off the back of them, at night. And then that way we have them clean and ready to go. So there's lots of ways to just get the homeowner, the client involved. If they're willing, they don't have to, but if they want
Right.
to, that's
Yeah.
fair. And it just makes it's more fun for us too, to have that interaction with volunteers and neighbors. And it makes it more of a passionate project rather than we just got to get this done and move on to the next thing.
It's so rare too. If you think about how many people, 8 billion people in the world, and how many people, I think last I checked, we had 2 million construction workers, and we need 1 million more. I may be way off there. I apologize for my stats, but it's very small compared to the amount of people that we have in the world. And just think, that small amount of people that understand structure. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we can do to make an impact on our industry, is to get these neighbors and communities and homeowners involved in touching and feeling and doing what it takes to go into a home that's really going to be a home for 100, 200, 300 years sometimes. And just that knowledge alone is going to make people more aware of the construction industry and the building process. So I love it. I think we just need to keep doing more and more and more of it, because like I said, you think about that percentage of who understands and the percent against the 8 billion people in the world, and it's very, very small. So if you get the opportunity, if you have a house going up in your neighborhood, audience, you should go by. Ask the framers if you can look around. I mean, most people haven't even seen a standard framing job, walked in it, looked at it, saw how the wires are coming up, how the roof is going on. I would just encourage you to go check it out. Most of the time those guys are excited to show off their work. They don't get people to stop by and say, ooh, ah, right?
Yeah.
And they need that. So it would be encouraging to them too. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you, Amanda, for doing that with your community. I think it's really, really important.
Yeah, if you go to her Instagram account, I've been there. Christi hangs out at her YouTube account, but which I need to check out too. But if you go there, you'll see that you'll see some of the the straw building process that she's going through. But also, by the way, a little plug for Anderson Windows. I think you were putting in Anderson Windows in that house too, right?
Yeah,
I was.
Okay, so
Anderson.
Tammy,
Nice.
FYI.
We need to get a hold of Tammy.
Yeah, because I saw that. And I had no idea about all those little things that you just said about the PVC and just the paint. I'm thinking now. So now let's move into you are a busy gal. How do you juggle running your business with doing good? Because that's really hard to include that as well. And what's one big thing you've learned about making sustainable building something everyone can get into, not just the big spenders, the one that has lots of money? So it's kind of a two-part question.
How do I juggle it? I am not sure. What was helpful, I think, working for nonprofits is learning how to delegate. And so that's always nice. But I think right now it's a small business. I do projects sort of intermittently, because I was working for a nonprofit in Utah as well. So I was kind of traveling back and forth. So I don't have a full-time team with me. I just sort of gather a team around me every time I have a project. So it does take a little bit of work, because I am sort of managing all of the stuff, right? So I don't know, I try to stay organized, and I would like to kind of ideally do one project at a time, but that reality is that doesn't really happen. So but I think that would be a way to kind of stay focused and make it easier. But in the real world, you've just got to sort of take take it as it comes, and just try to stay organized and try to stay focused on what's passionate for you and what you find interesting about the things, and getting excited about that on a daily basis.
So you're seriously making me want to rethink everything about building, especially the straw bale house. That was just following you and watching you build that building. And for those of you who are interested in sustainable building, please follow Amanda on her YouTube channel, because she is doing some amazing just day-to-day activities on what that looks like and why it's so important. So you really get to follow along while she's building. And I think that's super cool. I would much rather be watching that than the news all day, every day, and much rather be watching that than Netflix. It's just educational, and, it's just putting some really good information in your head, as you continue to move towards building a better future for our grandkids. And that's what I think about a lot. Why do we do what we do? We do what we do because we want the next few generations to have a healthier life than what we're watching in our own families. So, last question, and I'm really going to make it really brief because we're already at 20 minutes, believe it or not.
Oh.
You're killing it in construction and paving the ways for others. Really quickly, one thing, if you can think of one thing that you can say to women or anybody who's thinking about jumping into construction to start their own gig or sustainability, just one thing you can think of that they can be thinking, do I have that within me to do something like this? What would you say to encourage them?
Well, in terms of just women in construction in general, yes, you have it in you. It is possible for you, if you're interested at all in the physical aspect or the design aspect, that door should be open to you. It's kind of hard to jump in sometimes, I realize, but you can find places like Habitat for Humanity or other nonprofits that do construction that allow volunteers to just try it out and get your feet wet. That's a great way to do it. Or like Christi said, just kind of walk around and look at the building projects around and talk to folks. What was the other part of the question?
No, that was it, really.
Yeah.
Just where would you start? Because we do have a lot of women and young girls that are interested, and they all say, how do I get started? And we keep telling them, everybody's arms are open right now, right? You can ask anybody a question in the industry, and you're very rarely going to get somebody that's not willing to answer that question for you, no matter what it is, even if it's something they don't know. There's a lot of questions that we don't know the answer, but we introduce them to somebody that does. And we just care, right? We want more women in the industry. We want more people in the industry, because we are going to be in a deficit very soon. We're already in a deficit, but we're going to be in a almost unmanageable deficit in the next year to two, from what we understand from the last statistics I checked. So anyway, that I think that was a great
well, Amanda,
path forward.
Oh yeah, I mean, this story is so inspiring, and your passion truly shows through in how you share about, well, all of it. And we appreciate that so much. But before we let you go, can you give our listeners just a quick touch base on how to get in touch with you if they want to reach out to you?
Sure. I have a website at inhabitsustainably.com. I have a YouTube channel called Amanda Jane Building Better. And I have an Instagram page. I think it's inhabit.design.build. So you can reach me at any of those three methods, and I'd be happy to talk to anybody.
Awesome. And we'll have those also, the links on our website as well on her episode release. So,
yes.
So, well, let's make sure that we always stay connected, and to our listeners, if you're as pumped as we are about this episode, hit the subscribe button on Women Talk Construction. Drop us a review and share this with your friends, whether it be on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever. Who needs a dose of inspiration to build smarter? Well, that's everyone, right, Christi?
Yes, everybody. So keep building and dreaming big, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you.